My work transcends politics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, again, like I said, I'm not looking for reasons not to do the work. I'm looking for reasons to do the work. And so my coach said, you know what, you should send a tweet. And I tweeted and I tagged him. I said, Ted Cruz, my love goes to you and your family. By the way, this is who I am. This is what I do. I would like to offer you my services because it's what I do. This is not about Ted Cruz. This is about a father in turmoil, a father who is crying, no matter what rhetorics he has when he has a microphone and cameras and press. On his bed at night, he is hurting.
Welcome to Real Life Women, for women, by women. Our mission is to impact and enrich lives by discussing anything that relates to our happiness, our health, and our wealth. Please take a moment to share, like, and subscribe to our channel so that we can spread the message of hope and perseverance and enrich lives together. Thanks for listening. Here we are with Real Life Women. My name is Dr. Kristin Kidgell, coming from St. Petersburg, Florida. I have the pleasure to interview Dr. Lulu. She is in Texas. I don't recall the town, but I don't think that's very important. And she has so much to say, and I cannot wait for her to share it because this is information that really needs to move like wildfire, not just in the United States, I feel, right now, today, but around the world. And it is a message of love and hope. And listen, this woman's been interviewed by Oprah, and I get to interview her. This is so awesome. I'm stoked. Okay, where do you want to start?
First of all, can we just go back to the fact that everyone remembers that it's like, oh my God, you've been interviewed by Oprah. And I told a friend of mine, he was like, he said, and I quote, I want to kiss the lips of the person who spoke on Zoom to Oprah. And it's like, and it's like, I forget sometimes that we had a one-on-one for 7 minutes, 7. So yeah, thank you so much for going back there. But I appreciate it. I live in San Antonio, Texas. I usually introduce it as North Mexico.
Okay.
I usually introduce it as North Mexico, but I happily live here. I was in the Air Force, which is what brought me. I was a lieutenant colonel and a commander, and that brought me to San Antonio, Texas. And then I finished with my time, and I got out and I stayed on, and I'll be here until next year when my baby goes off to college, and then I moved to San Diego. So I'm so happy to be here. I know we went up and down and sideways, but we're here now. So let's go. I stay ready. So let's do it. Let's do it.
So lieutenant, you said?
Lieutenant Colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel. God bless you. Thank you for your service. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, that I was raised by parents that valued significantly our veterans and our service men and women. So, but that's not the only thing you did. When did you decide to be a pediatrician?
Oh, I was 16. I think I had the same conversation, maybe the same week. The one I told my dad I liked girls, and then the one that I said I wanted to become I wanted to become an architect. And then he said, architect, that's for men. This is a classic patriarchal society. This is a misogynistic, that's the word, misogynistic society that I grew up in, Nigeria, where men have all the say. My father was as misogynistic as he could, but only to a point, because we also came with that same brand of madness that he has, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So I was like, yes, I want to be an architect. What you going to do about it? And he was like, but it's for men. I was like, okay. And then he said, okay, why don't you do something more feminine, like pharmacy? And then he calls one of my cousins and said, see, she's a pharmacist. And he forgot that her big sister is a doctor. And I was like, I'm not here to follow anybody's footsteps. If I'm going to do anything in the medical field, then I'm going to become a doctor. And I had never thought about being a doctor. I love arts. I love design. I love crafting. I love creating. And so I wanted architecture. And he said, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to med school. He was like, really? I said, yes, really. He was like, okay, we'll see. I said, okay, we'll see. And so I went to medical school, like literally on a dare with my dad. But my dad and I have, we have a beautiful dance today. He's still alive. And it's a beautiful relationship that we have, is mutual respect. When I wanted to retire his name, which is Dr. Ume, he was the only person I told. I said, Daddy, I want to retire as a physician. And he said, you have reached the pinnacle of your profession. You could do whatever you want to do.
Beautiful.
But today, I have people who are not my father. I said, oh my God, you want to retire as a doctor? What do you mean? Like, and I'm like, I didn't ask you to retire. Like, for real.
Back to that.
I have a bigger calling.
Yes.
And if I have to explain it to you, then I'm wasting time that I'm not going to get back. And I mean close family members, because people have a hard time only seeing you outside of what they already see you as.
Girl, I get you so much.
When the message was given to me, it wasn't given to me to check it with others, check and make sure that they are comfortable. No. And I want to empower anybody that hears my voice, any real woman out there in the Real Life Women series. When you have a calling, your biggest adversary is you.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason you are your biggest adversary is because you have been socialized and brought up to listen to everyone else. And then as you do that, you now start wearing everybody's masks. And one day you don't recognize yourself. And so the journey is taking off the masks and finding yourself inside. I used to cry to God. I said, why did you make my first child, gay? My eldest child is assigned male at birth, or rather was assigned male at birth. And I used to cry. And the story I tell people is that, and God was like scratching stuff out of his teeth and telling people, the angels, and said, should I tell her? And they're like, nah, don't tell her yet. And I was like, okay. And then eventually I'm like, God, why do you have to make him gay? Why is he gay? And God's like, I'm just going to tell her. And they're like, okay. And then God says, guess what? If you think gay was bad, honey, I got a surprise for you. Your child is transgender. And I say that because we always think the worst case scenario of the present. We can't see past that. And when the story fell and broke that this is what it is transgender, and I said, are you freaking kidding me right now? And God said, wait a minute. So who do you think I should send? You claim to be a speaker, an author, an agitator, an activist, all of this. Who do you want me to send? And so I said, okay.
Oh, got it.
However, please, may I ask questions? He said, or she said, or they said, ask any question. I said, okay, I just have one request. And they were like, sure, what is it? And I start talking and I'm like, okay, please, could you? And they finished the sentence. You mean send you people to help you along the way? Girl, I got you. Of course, I'll send Christine. I'll send all of the little soldiers and messengers to help elevate your message. But you will go first. And so that's why I'm here. I'm not here because right off the bat, I was supportive of my kiddo. No, I'm here because I've made all the mistakes. And one of the classes I teach every Friday at noon, like today, is top 3 mistakes parents make when their queer kids come out. And if you know about me, you know that my second TEDx talk is titled Rethinking the Closet. Coming out LGBT versus inviting in. So I don't like to use the word coming out, the phrase coming out. Okay. I prefer inviting in. And I use inviting in because I now know what it means. It means the queer person has the power to own their shit, as it were.
Yes.
To own their self. And you, as the parent, as the teacher, as the best friend, as the colleague, as the neighbor, as the coworker, you have to earn your invitation by becoming an ally. So the work I do is actually about allyship. It's about becoming a parent ally, which is what I had to become. And so my online course naturally is called Becoming the Parent Your Queer Child Needs. My next book that's dropping in March of next year is titled How to Become the Parent Your LGBT Child Needs, Invited In. So this is a dummy. This is my journal. It's a dummy, but I just made a copy of the cover so I could use it and tell people about it. I want to be known as the woman, the inviting in person. I did not create the concept. I learned about it in a podcast in 2018. And I told the lady, I said, you know what? I love that concept so much. I'm going to do a TEDx talk about it. I said that in 2018 with no idea where the TEDx talk was going to come from. 2020, my bad, 2020. Whenever. But I proclaimed it then. And today it's become a reality. So women who are listening to me, the real life women, it's about owning your doubt, owning your fear, but going forth nonetheless. You think I'm not afraid that my child is a Black trans woman in the state of Texas? But the question I ask myself is, does my child need my fear or does my child need my courage? Courage is fear plus action. My child needs my courage, of course. And so, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So I will put in the description of all the ways people can find you. So that's neither here nor there. So where can they find this like straight away? Just so they know they've heard that. Now, where can they find that?
The book or the retreat or the online course? Or
let's talk about the course. You talked about the course and then go ahead and jump into the retreat. So talk about the course and the retreat.
I'm going to type in the link just so you can get the spelling right, if that makes any sense. Okay. So my course is on my government name, which is uchennaume.com. That's where my course lives. And I have several other courses there. I'm a book writing coach as well. I teach a class called Parenting Without Yelling. I teach the class how to communicate with your teen. Then I teach the top 3 mistakes. So I have a few other courses in there, but this one is, to me, my flagship course, the one I was put on this earth to do. Okay. It's based on a very simple concept, the U-squared method, which could be uchennaume, right? But really is unlearning the untruths about the queer community. Unlearning. I had to unlearn. I had to tell myself, my child is not going to hell because someone somewhere thinks my child is going to hell. Wait, I'm not going to hell. I did not make myself bisexual. I did not create myself and make myself queer. What I've done is learn to lean in to the beauty of that. And so I tell parents, I said, lean in and come in with curiosity. I use ICE, I-C-E, intentional, curious, and empowering. Coming with those 3 things put together so that when your child says those words you don't ever want to hear, Mom, I'm gay, Dad, I'm gay, be intentional. Ask yourself, if this was me telling my parent, what would I want my parents to say to me? Or if this was my straight child telling me, here's my boyfriend, Joey, what would I say? If you do that first step, stop, take a moment. Matter of fact, I want you to practice in lieu of your child ever telling you or not telling you. Maybe your sister's child would tell your sister. But because you heard this video, you watch this video, you know, the first thing to do is wait, take a minute, just take a moment. Don't fret, because that's what your brain is doing a perfectly synchronized water gymnastics. Oh my God. Just take a moment, take a deep breath and say, what would I want to be said to me at this crucial moment? One of the things I talk about, and I go around my ADD, welcome to my ADD, but one of the things I talk about in my TEDx talk, my second TEDx talk, is there are many reasons why your child has not invited you into their world. Sometimes it's you, sometimes it's them. Sometimes it's them trying to protect you in today's world in Florida and Texas so you don't get arrested in Michigan. Sometimes it's their friends. Sometimes it's whatever. It's not always you. However, you can only do you. You can only control you. So I want you, the parent, to be ready for when it happens. And a running joke in my sphere is when you go into your family, your child is never going to be the only queer person in your family. However, if you look around, up, down, sideways, and sideways, you cannot find any queer person in your family. Look straight ahead in the mirror. It's you. Yes, honey. I told you polarizing statements. Yes. Because of internalized homophobia. I had internalized homophobia. I didn't like myself for years. It took me 26 years to come out to myself because my father told me at 16 that it was a phase. Oh. There's power in our words. And it took me 26 years fighting this person, fighting this truth, fighting it. So you see why I say it's unlearning untruths. And the course is based on the 3B step. The first step is B, basics. What is being LGBTQIAAPPO2S? What does that mean? Those are the letters so far. Okay? What does it all mean? A lot of times we run from what we don't know. But if I teach you the basics, if I teach you what it means to be non-binary, to be agender, to be demisexual, to be sapiosexual, which has nothing to do with sexuality, by the way, but it has the word sexual at the end of it. And people are surprised when I walk into a space to give a talk and I'm like, so let's see by show of hands, how many people are demisexual here? No one. Then I usually point at somebody to look up the definition of demisexual. And then when they read it out, then I ask again, so how many people are demisexual in here? And then never fails. How many are sapiosexual here? And then when they look up the meaning, and I say, you see how you can erroneously hate yourself without even knowing that you fall into that category, that beautiful spectrum, that beautiful rainbow family. And so the second B is building. We're going to now build. We're going to first, how do you build something? You excavate the land, right? So we're unlearning, and then we're laying a foundation, the basics. What are your thoughts? What are your belief systems? What do you know already about it? What do you think you know already about the LGBTQ community? And that brings me to a point I make all the time. If someone who is not LGBTQIAP, whatever numbers, letters, if that person opens their mouth to say a word about the community, you'll have the right to hush them. It's like being Black or not being Black. You cannot open your mouth to say anything about Blackness. You're not Black. And so if you're not queer, you cannot have an opinion about queerness. You don't know. Everything you think is what you think. You don't know it because you're not it. And so yesterday or 2 days ago, I had a post that I said, dear heterosexual, me thinks that you think that being gay is a choice because you had same-sex feelings and chose to live as straight. I'm all about polarizing statements. I have to be in their face. And I asked them, I said, since you think I chose to be gay or I decided to be gay, when did you decide to be straight? What day was that? We have to come up with these things ready because the people coming for us are coming with those things. And then I asked him, I said, what did Jesus say in the Bible about homosexuality? That's what Jesus said. Mm-hmm. Nothing. Nothing. And so, but I used to teach Bible study. I'm no longer a practicing Christian, but I have knowledge because I've done my real research. And I know that studies have shown in families where there is support of the queer child, suicide rates are halved. I'll take my chances. And then a study that was published in NIH, National Institute of Health, 2020, showed that it was a study done on young transgender women, diverse backgrounds. They found out that maternal support, singular, maternal support was the most powerful force against suicidal behavior. Honey, I'll take my chances with my kid. And so when people don't know what they don't know, my job is to lean in and try to teach them. Now, that said, it is imperative that people know that internalized homophobia is why I did not first support my child. I was like, no, please. Because I know in America, people want my kid dead just for being who they are. I was like, please don't be gay. Okay, don't be non-binary. Then don't be transgender. These are all the places that we went through before we came to transgender. And so I say to people, smart people learn from their mistakes, but smarter people learn from other people's mistakes. And that brings me to the third B, becoming the parent your child needs. That means learning about your child. Everything about your child. I've given you the basics, an overview of LGBT community. I've given you the building up your knowledge base, getting you to unlearn what you've learned, all your thought processes, your assumptions, your preconceived notions, the mistakes and the myths. And now that you're clear, let's invite your child. Not necessarily in person. Your child might be 6. Your child might be 16 or might be 60. But let's now say your child is non-binary. Let's learn specifically about your child so that you can be present for them wholly. And I think the course is amazing, if I have to say so myself. My thing is I've been struggling with imposter syndrome. Like I told Lady Oprah, I said, I don't want to put myself out there. And then I realized that that's because I have been making it about me and not about my clients. And once I had that shift, that my job is to love my clients and love them fiercely, I know that they're looking for me and I just have to get out there so they can find me, honey. Like I said about Ted Cruz earlier on, bring it. And so that's why I want to start going on stages so people can start, like for real, like I'm going crazy. This is my 3rd podcast this week. Just trying to get people to hear more about what they don't know. Go ahead.
Well, this is important because we didn't hit the record button when we were talking about our governors. And so the Ted Cruz comment that you just made, I'd like to go back to that and talk about that because I'm not a big news person. I do get tiny parts of the news, but you told me that he had a child that attempted suicide. Is that what you told me earlier this morning?
So he didn't have a child. He has.
I'm sorry.
And I want people to know that the child is alive. So that's why I want to correct that. Yes, ma'am. But not that you're wrong, but just that the child is alive.
Okay, good.
And so it was a tweet that went viral, and I had at least 6 people minimum tag me or take screenshots and share with me because of the work that I do. Have you heard this? Have you heard this? Because I live in Texas. Because I know, believe it or not, in March of this year, I made a post on Facebook that I said, Ted Cruz has TDS. And I don't know if you know what TDS is, but I'm going to leave it at this. Those who know. If you know, you know. Okay. So I wrote that, and that was the same day that my Facebook got hacked, the same day. So I don't know if it was, I don't know, but it was the same day. However, people know that I generally don't care for Ted Cruz, the politician.
Yes.
But here's a father whose child reportedly, according to the tweet from an inside source, the child invited them in a year ago about their bisexual status of sexuality, bisexuality, or by being bisexual, however you want to say it. A year later, on December 6, 2022, the child attempted suicide. So the way the post was written, they said, there's a child that lives in Texas. The child came out as bisexual a year ago. The child attempted suicide last night. The child is Ted Cruz's daughter. That's the way it was written. on
Oh,
Twitter.
wow.
Ted Cruz is a Texas senator or congressman, senator, whatever.
Got it.
So they said there's a child who lives in Texas. The child came out as bisexual a year ago. The child attempted suicide last night. The girl or the child is Ted Cruz's daughter. That was kind of the way it was written. Okay. And then there was some follow-up screenshots. But the point I'm trying to make is, yesterday, somebody came at me for declaring my love for Ted Cruz. As a matter of fact, I'm going to write today, I love Ted Cruz, because I love all my clients, regardless of what political affiliations, religious affiliations, skin color, creed. My job is just like a pediatrician. As a physician, I'm not going to say, well, I only cater to Ashkenazi Jews. But you are a Jew from Palestine, so I'm not a pediatrician who picks and chooses. But the patient has every right to say, I don't want to come see you as a doctor anymore. Great. But until that day, when they unsubscribe, I am their coach. And they might be paid clients, or they might be unpaid clients like Ted Cruz. The point is, here's a father whose child tried to take their own life. And let me tell you something. Somebody said yesterday on my TikTok, on the post on TikTok, which kind of went viral, by the way. Somebody said on the TikTok, well, according to her post, she said it was not about her father. And I was like, that is typical behavior of trauma response. What do you want her to say? And plus, they probably said, listen, you need to go make a post and control the narrative now that this has happened. This is a classic damage control attempt. We have a child who tried to kill themselves. That is all that I know. My work is about youth suicide. My first TEDx talk is about youth suicide prevention. It doesn't matter what else they say to me. I know that they're in pain.
And for how long to get to that point? Right.
Thank you. And so we cannot diminish that. We cannot minimize that. It's not for me to decide. We have a child in pain. We have a family in pain. Our job is to send thoughts and prayers and strength and pray that Ted Cruz sees my tweet and reaches out. That's it.
Gets help.
This is parent to parent. This is it. Ted Cruz is about my age. He's in his 50s. He's about my age. This is parent to parent. And that's why I decided that I'm going to work with parents of LGBTQ plus kids. I'm not even a year into this yet. Do you know that? I'm not even a year into this. And that sometimes I relax and it looks like 5 years from now. Oh my God. The lives I will have touched, the children's lives that will have been saved.
Exactly.
One of the ways I end my email, which I call my love letters to my email crew, I always end with P.S. Your child is waiting.
Or a child is waiting. You know, some children lean on their neighbor because they're kinder, or they're more present, or they're retired, or, you know, there is a child that needs you, period. It may not be your
teacher, a coach, the neighbor. Yes, that's so true. I might even use, I know when in copy world, when you use the word your, it's usually more personalizing and centering versus a. But I get it. I know exactly where I come. That's beautiful. That casts out the net about the allyship, which is what you are. You're an ally.
Absolutely.
Even if you see, people don't realize that just because somebody is a member of the community doesn't mean that they have to be an ally. A lot of people are struggling with their own demons, their own internalized homophobia. You would think that a Black person who is already a minority, who has experienced racism, would know that being LGBT is the same thing. You're both minorities, you're both the underdog, and yet we have Black people who are homophobic.
Times are a-changing, lady. Times are a-changing. I'll tell you what, this is going to be, yes. You know, I'm just a small practice. You know, I don't consider myself this person that's just really kind of, you know, known by a lot of people. I see I work 3 times a week in a chiropractic office. Okay. Granted, I am practicing in my hometown. So, if you see my last names, you'll be like, oh, there's only one of you in this town. But just in the last few years, my patients are my patients. They, it's like the bartender and the hairdresser. They feel comfortable with you. They'll share what's going on in their lives. Or I work on I have a family practice. So I've worked on these children or, or the grandmother, or so I have been honored when a mother or a grandmother or, shares that a child, a teenager, maybe somebody in their 20s, a loved one is now at that point where they are sharing that they are no longer straight. And so what I have been exposed to is watching that loved one trying to wrap their head around it. Exactly. So this information is definitely going to be extremely helpful, because if I had this data to share with that mom, which, by the way, when this recording's done, I know I have the list, I have the names of where this is going via text message, because they may be 3 years into this, but we can all learn from this data, all this info.
Yes. And I've been approached by that thought before, to only cater to those whose kids just made the announcement. My kid says, Mom, just you share. Whose kids just shared, or whose kids just invited them in. However, I know that there are some children who, like my own child, X amount of years later, their father is still digging their heels in and not supporting. So I don't limit it to, it just happened last week or it just happened a year ago. I am you. I have been through that, even as a queer person myself. And there's no shame in it. There's no guilt. There's no fear. There's no anxiety. But those are the feelings that come. I get it.
Gotcha.
But like I said at the very beginning, your job is to sit down and analyze each feeling and trace it to its root. You usually find out that it's based on something that is not even real. Because here we have this feeling based on a thought, and here we have your child based on reality. And that's why I'm having, for the first time ever, even as my knees are knocking as I'm saying this, I'm daring into the retreat space. I'm having my first ever retreat for parents of queer kids. Let me tell you, everybody's like, oh my God, just open it up to all parents. And I said, no, I have this feeling that I want this inner urge to serve this niche so badly. I'm a pediatrician. I could easily just be a parent coach. There'll be more parents, but I choose this niche because of the suicide rate, because of the effect of one support. Did you know that numbers 57 and 4 come to play? In a family where the parents do not support the child, there's a 57% rate of suicidal behavior, suicide attempt, suicide. When one parent is supportive, the number crashes to 4%. Baby, I'll take it.
I love this so much. So much. I am so honored to know you and to share your word and your message. Okay, let's wrap this up, because I know you've got an appointment here in a couple minutes.
I love talking about this so much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just so passionate about it. I want people to just hear that there's hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel. You can do one of two things. Number one, you could choose your thoughts. You can always choose your thoughts. A couple of days ago, I posted this thought that came to my head. I said, people always say, let me ask you this, Kristin, what do people say? The only constant in the world is what? What do they say?
Change.
Yes, people say that. And I poked a big hole in that. I was like, no, change is not constant. Decision making is constant. Because you can also decide not to change. So change is not constant. However, even when you decide to not make a decision, that's a decision.
Yes, agree with that.
And so I want parents to know that change is not constant. I was like, oh my God, where did that come from? But I grew up hearing that change is constant. That's not true, because some people don't want to change. And that is a true statement.
They're scared of it.
Hello? But even if you decide not to change, that's a decision. So decision making is constant. So I want the parents to know that you get to decide to support your child. It's up to you. And when you start believing that you can do it, everything changes. Because the truth is, somebody who tells you to not accept your child and knows the suicide rate hates you and hates your child, because they know the suicide rate. However, that said, suicide rate is not 100%. So there are still some children who will thrive in spite of the parents.
They'll find someone else that will love.
Yes, for that, I'm here. So yeah.
Yep. Because if they can find the love somewhere, it needs to be at home, but it needs to also be everybody else.
Most important person that will give them the love is them. And I have a brand new self-love journal. I don't know where I kept it. Oh dear. I have a brand new self-love journal because my retreat is a self-love retreat. I have a brand new self-love journal where every morning you wake up and say, today I love myself because I want the queer person to discover their own internalized self-love. Because some people don't have the parent to give it to. So find your own self-love as a child, find your own self-love as a parent, and what a beautiful dance that will be. I want to just end by saying thank you so much, Kristin, for giving me this opportunity today to come and just shine and do my work. Y'all can find me on any social media. Just type in Dr. Lulu. I'm one and only. And if you can't find me that way, the Momatrician is me and me only. There are other Dr. Lulus, but there's only one Momatrician, because I made that word up and I trademarked it very quickly, so no one else could borrow it.
Trician.
Yes, is okay. Mom and pediatrician. If you can just put that in your head, that is mom.
Perfect.
Plus pediatrician equals momatrician. Momatrician. M-O-M-A-trician.
So I keep having this vision in the back of my head where you are going to fly in. I am going to pick you up. We are going to spend time together, and there will be a stage, and I will be introducing you, and then I will be handing the mic off to you, and you will be going crazy here in this town. I'm already having that vision. I'm assuming it's here in my hometown, but I'm super excited. And I don't think this is our last interview. Just going to say that too.
Welcome it. I welcome this interview. I welcome a panel discussion.
Ooh,
I welcome moderating. I'm an MC. I do anything that has to do with a microphone and a camera. That's me, as you can see from that picture there. But yeah, so thank you so much. You're welcome. You never know what you don't know. But this, as hard as it was for us to get together, we finally did. To me, honey, I want to thank you. The French will say, je vous remercie beaucoup. I thank you very much. From the bottom of de mi corazón is what the Spanish would say. Muchísimas gracias de mi corazón. Thank you from my heart for doing this for me today, for doing this for the parents, for doing this for the kids. Thank you.
That's right. Doing it for love. Hey, friends for life right here. I love you, girl.
Yes,
I love what you're doing. And yeah.
How far away is St. Petersburg from Miami?
5.5 hours?
No. I'll be in Miami on Tuesday till Friday.
Yeah, I thought about coming to see you. I know, I can't, but it did cross my mind. But we will make this happen. You will be back.